Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back here to today's edition of Intuitive Angling, and really appreciate you guys making some time out of your day to spend with me and watch the video. Always appreciate that. And guys, today we're going to be talking about the only 3 ways do you ever want to set the hook with a bait cast outfit. Tomorrow we'll get into the spinning rod hook sets. Today it's bait casting, and it is so critical as far as consistently getting fish in the boat without losing those fish, because every lure category requires a different type of a hook set. So I'm going to show you the 3 main type of hook sets that you need to use that will cover pretty much every lure category that you have. Also, guys, before we get started, just a big thank you. I just wanted to show my appreciation and gratitude to everybody out there that's been using all the links that I put in my description of the videos, like my Tackle Warehouse link, Solar Bat link. All you guys that have used and bookmarked those links, you're really supporting the channel, and big thank you from me and my family. We really appreciate that. Okay guys, let's get into this. I'll show you, get the camera down a little bit here, I'll show you the 3 primary ones. Now there's a lot, one of the things about it, I'll preface the video before I get into saying this, is there's only so much that you can do as far as what you can control as far as actually getting that fish in the boat, as far as getting a hook into that fish, because sometimes there's some things that are out of your control, because the way that a bass attacks and bites a lure is the #1 thing that determines whether you're going to get that fish in the boat or not. Because say for example, when you have a lure, let's get this like a crankbait here. Say this crankbait's running through the water like this right here. The fish can literally attack it from 100 different angles. It's like they can come down on it, they can come up on it, they can come sideways on it, they can come from the front, they can come from behind. And every angle that a fish attacks the lure, it's either a high percentage hook set for you or it's a low percentage hook set. Because also a lot of it has to do with not only how they bite the lure, but how aggressively they bite it, how much they inhale it in their mouth. Those are variables that you don't have any control over. The control that you do have as far as hooking those fish is the rod action that you have and your type of a hook set. Those are the things that you can control. So that's what we're going to focus on in today. And if you're doing everything right, excuse me, let's say for example, if you've got the right hook, you got the right rod, you got the right hook set, and you still lose a fish, which is going to happen, don't get too bent out of shape about it, because like I said, most of the time it's just the way that they bite the lure. Sometimes they just come up and nip it, and you got the fish on for a little bit, but you got it skin hooked and there's nothing you can do about it. So some situations there's nothing you can do about it, but there are some things you can do about it as far as the hook set. Okay, there's 3 basic type of hook sets based upon the lure categories that you're using. Now the first one I want to talk about is the lures that you Texas rig or jig. The lures that require a harder hook set because they have a larger diameter hook, or you have hook that's embedded in a plastic, so you've actually got to penetrate hook through a plastic, or you have to penetrate a larger diameter hook through your lure out there. So let's say for example, if you cast out there and you're working a 1/2 ounce jig that's got a pretty big hook in it and you get a bite, what you want to do is you never ever want to set the hook for any of these hook sets when you feel the fish. If you get a decent fish on, they're not going to like pick up your bait and spit it out. That usually, well, I'm not saying never, because sometimes they do under certain times of the year, but most of the time, by far, over 90% of the time, when you have a decent fish, like a fish over 2 pounds, you're going to have a hard time shaking that fish off. If you get a bite on a jig, you could shake it, it could swim 50 feet away from it and still not, come off. Sometimes they swallow it when you shake it. So when you get that bite, don't get in a big hurry with a jig or a worm or some type of single hook lure that you're working slow. Reel down to the fish, let the fish move for 4 or 5 feet, take the slack out of the line, and brace yourself a little bit and just rear back and set the hook like that on a tight line. You don't want to set it on a slack line, contrary to what some people say. May work for some people, doesn't work for me. I've learned the hard way about losing tons of big ones, setting the hook on a slack line. But I want to set that hook on a tight line, and I don't want to let up on it. I want to set the hook and I want to keep reeling until that fish gets by the boat. As long as that fish's head is coming to me, I want to keep it coming. Now, if the fish starts turning a different direction, I don't want to force it. I just want to push my thumb bar, let the fish have some line until it turns around, and I start putting the pressure on again. That is on a lure that you're manipulating slow, that is on the bottom. Now, if you're fishing a different type of lure, let's say you're fishing a larger lure that has an exposed hook on it, like an exposed single hook. Say for example, like a chatterbait, a spinnerbait, a buzzbait, something along those lines. I mean, something that still is a larger bait, but you're not working it along the bottom where you feel the strike and the fish moves off. You're actually reeling the lure through the water column. Let's say, for example, you throw that chatterbait out there, you're reeling that chatterbait or the spinnerbait, and you get the strike. Again, you have to be mentally prepared for that strike. So as soon as you get that strike, don't set the hook like a live nerve ending. It's like you're reeling that spinnerbait through there, that chatterbait, boom, one hits it. As soon as you feel that strike, all you have to do is start reeling and pull back at the same time. Don't set the hook like that, but just start reeling and pulling back like that fast. Because what happens on a deal like that is when that fish bites a single hook like that, if you just keep reeling and keep pressure on that fish, it's going to slowly start penetrating that fish the whole time around. And there's this, and we get into the third one, I'll show you the difference on that. So just make sure when you're reeling, you're constantly pulling all the time. And sometimes just even take a couple steps back. That's the way to do it on those bigger single hook lures. Now, if you're fishing a bait like that's got smaller diameter hooks, say for example, you're fishing like a little crankbait like this, so like this got some smaller diameter, not big single hooks, treble hook type lures, jerk bait, whatever like that. When you get that fish, you're reeling, you got your crankbait or you got your jerk bait, or you're working your jerk bait or your crankbait or something with small lures. When you get that strike on the crankbait, don't do anything. Just start reeling fast. Start reeling fast and start getting your rod in position. You don't have to pull back. You don't have to set the hook. You're cranking that, boom, once hits it. Just start reeling real fast like that. And for whatever reason, if you do that, you lose far, far less fish. And I learned the hard way, guys. I've experimented for decades on different type of hook sets. And I've talked to different anglers. I've compared notes with other pros. And it's been my conclusion, those are the three main hook sets you need to use. I think if anything, if I could give you one piece of advice on a hook set, is don't jack them hard. It's like I think one of the biggest myths in bass fishing is that you really have to bear down and just, drive that, hook home and just go just as hard as you can. You don't have to do that. Probably, and I'll tell you one story, and you guys that watch the channel may have heard me talk about this before, but the angler that I have met that never loses them, I never hear him talking about losing. Back when I used to talk with him and know him and fish the tournaments with him, never lost fish. He got every fish in the boat, was Gary Yamamoto, who developed the Senko. And Gary fishes with his own stuff most all the time, so he's always fishing some type of a Texas rig or something, or jig or something like that. You know how Gary sets the hook? He casts out there and, say he's working a Senko or something like that, and he gets a bite, he just starts reeling like that. Just starts reeling slow. You see your rod tip bending, doesn't do nothing, just starts reeling just like that. No hook set, just starts reeling. That dude never loses a fish, so that's something to be said, for that. I remember, I'll tell you one more story about how I really got into this studying how to set the hook. Is I was fishing a tournament up at Lake Eufaula, Alabama. This has been a long time ago, and I was flipping a big jig and lay down trees, in dirty water. It was early in the year. I wasn't getting many fish, but I wouldn't get many bites. But when I got a bite, it was a good one. Every time it was a 4 to 8 pounder in every single bite that I was getting. And I was using 30-pound test line, big jig. And when those fish would bite, I would rear down on them and I just freaking jack them like that. Guys, I lost 75% of the bites I had. I had these big ones on that would jump off, they'd come underneath the boat and pull off, all that type of stuff. And it made me realize, it's like, if that doesn't work, and I was letting them move out with it, it's like, if that doesn't work, I've got to try to develop some other technique. And that's when I sort of got into, setting the hook the way that I just told you. And as a result, I've lost far fewer fish. So give it a try. And also, guys, don't get frustrated if you're doing everything right and you still lose them. That's just part of fishing. Don't get too bent out of shape about it. So talk to you guys later. See you.